Okay, so in today's webinar, basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how any student can score and improve tremendously in Singapore primary math using Dr. Zams Math method of brain-based learning. Right, so I know parents who are very concerned over their child's math, and in particular Singapore math is not like any math that we are used to. Right, so later I'll tell you what is Singapore math, and when you understand more about Singapore math, then you will realize what you need to do for your child, or if your child is watching, how you can do for yourself to do better. And in our case, in Dr. Zams Math, we actually focus on brain-based learning, and later on you will see what our strategies. Okay, all right, now in today's webinar we're going to take a look at the Singapore Math Framework. So you will take a look at Singapore Math Framework, whereby the focus is actually on problem solving. So I'll talk more about what is meant by the problem solving. All right, then the next thing is I'm going to show you what Dr. Zams Math is about. Okay, Dr. Zams Math is focused on mathematical problem solving. So Singapore Math Framework and Dr. Zams Math, they are actually synchronized, right? But the difference here is we actually make use of brain-based learning. Right. Now, the other thing I want to share with you is Dr. Zams Math Problem Sums Toolbox will be coming soon. So this really helps your child to really do well in their problem sums. All right. And later I'll tell you why this is very important. Okay, then we're going to take a look at Dr. Zams Ultimate Primary Math Series books. So basically these books are publications made and developed by myself. So because you see, I've seen students struggling with math for the past 5 years, 6 years, up to 10 years, and I know why they are struggling, and I want to put them in a form whereby everybody can make use of it, right? Because not everybody has the time for tuition or time for extra classes. So I thought that it would be nice if I can create books whereby students and parents can come together and use the books on top of our webinars and other programs. Alright, then the next thing here is we're going to take a look at what is the PSLE Math new exam formats from 2018. So from 2018 onwards, you will actually have the new PSLE Math exam format. So I want to share with you what is this PSLE Math exam format. Alright, and then I'm going to introduce to you this concept of the e-classes or webinars, okay, under Dr. Zams Math. I'm going to tell you the rationale why we have to have e-classes or webinars. Why is it that I can't be there for your child every week coaching your child, right? Because to tell you the truth, your child does not need somebody to coach your child 24 hours. In fact, some of our most successful students are very self-directed. All they need is the motivation and the guidance. So I'm going to give that guidance, motivation through e-classes and webinars. Alright, and then we're going to take a look at the upcoming special webinar. Alright, the upcoming special webinar will be preparing your child for the PSLE 2018. So make sure you sign up for the upcoming special webinar. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the school holidays programs that we have, which starts from 31st August, which is actually Teachers' Day, all the way through the September holidays, the 1st till the 9th September 2018. Alright, then I'm going to share with you the transition between from primary math to secondary math, the transition, so that you can understand why is it very important for you to get your children on the right footing in primary math, right? So this I thought will be very important. So all these we will cover in about, let's say, up to 90 minutes, right? So maximum will be about 90 minutes, so that if you want to review this video, you can always review it. You can ask me questions and I will take your questions. All right. So for those who have just joined us on the webinar, welcome. Okay, if you have questions, you can post them online on the webinar room or on Facebook live, and then I will take your questions later on. I will answer your questions. And then for those who only watch this video not live, recorded, you can still ask your questions and I will take your questions and I will answer them accordingly. All right, now what is we are not going to go into the webinar in proper. So basically we're going to talk about the brain-based learning for Singapore math. Okay, so I'm going to show you how your child can score and improve tremendously for math. Okay, so the first thing we have to take a look is the Singapore Math Framework, right? Singapore Math Framework is very focused on problem solving. All right, so according to Ministry of Education of Singapore, the Curriculum Planning and Development Division, okay, this is what is stated, right? what did they do? They actually planned a curriculum. They actually developed the curriculum for math in Singapore such that the central focus of the framework is mathematical problem solving. And what is mathematical problem solving? Mathematical problem solving is using math to solve problems. Basically, they are very focused on getting your kids to really do well in math, not just the concepts, but rather use math to solve problems. So basically, that is the central focus of the Singapore math framework. So for those who are joining us from overseas and you're very interested in Singapore math, just take note, Singapore math is not like any other math that you've ever encountered in the whole entire world. Alright, Singapore math is actually very focused on using math to solve problems. Okay, so basically in the document prepared by the Curriculum Planning and Development Division, Ministry of Education Singapore, they actually come up with this framework, right at the center here. Let me just grab my pen. Alright, so right at the center here you have mathematical problem solving, which is supported by the different components of the framework, right, which I will touch on more. Right, so this is the central focus of Singapore math, problem solving. So problem solving is very important. So if you feel, you feel like, okay, what can I do more to help my child? Later I will talk to you at greater length on what you can actually do for them. Alright, now what is Dr. Zams Math? Alright, so Dr. Zams Math is very focused on mathematical problem solving, and the way we do this is to help your child learn, is to actually make use of your child's unique brain, right? And that is, we want to help your child to switch on its potential, okay, its cognitive potential, which is to switch on its brain, to switch on its math brain. All right, so brain-based learning, according to our strategy, is actually equal to mathematical problem solving. So essentially what we're trying to tell you here is, to be really good in mathematical problem solving, your child needs to be learning math using its brain. So it's like whole brain approach. So later I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about our brain-based learning methodology. Alright, so what is brain-based learning? Okay, Dr. Zams Math is very focused on two things. When we talk about brain-based learning, we are looking at your child's multiple intelligences. What it means here is every child actually have their own unique intelligences. Later we'll touch more about that. And then the other component of this brain-based learning is the brain fitness of your child. Right, how fit your child is. So when you understand these two about your children, you are able to help your child learn. Because you see, different children, they process information differently. Like for example, your children might be a word smart person. That means your children learn through words. Or your children might be a math smart person, but is not doing well in math. How is that? My child is math smart but not doing well in math, because the way your child processes the math information or the math knowledge or concept is not in tandem with your child's intelligences. And we have nature smart, body smart, music smart, social smart, people smart, self smart, picture smart, and all different kinds of intelligences. So for the purposes of this webinar, I'm not going to go through the different intelligences. I'm just going to let you know that every child is unique, and you need to harness your child's uniqueness to help your child do well in math. Right? So the other component we talk about is brain fitness. So it's very important for your child to have brain fitness at a high level of brain fitness so that your child can do well in math. So this is what brain-based learning is all about. Alright? So some of the brain tools that we have developed, right? We have the Brain Core Infinity Diagnostic Suite. Right, so the Brain Core Infinity Diagnostic Suites, we actually take a look at the brain print. So every child actually have a unique brain print. Okay, what is the brain print? So the brain print is actually something like a thumbprint, but the brain print tells us how dominant certain intelligences in your child, right? And then the other component of the Brain Core Infinity Diagnostic Suite is the CFC score. CFC score is a reflection or a representation of the cognitive functions and condition. That means how fit is your brain, right? How fit your child's brain is. So using this Brain Core Infinity Diagnostic Suite, we will be able to assess your children well and then help them to use brain-based learning to do well in math. Alright, and then the next thing that we have is actually the infinito brain fitness training. So in the situation whereby we feel your child needs brain fitness training in these areas, like for example memory, right? For example memory, attention. You know, some children they are not really good with memory, attention, their speed, brain speed, their intelligence, in navigation and people skills. So these are the 6 areas in which Infinito Brain Fitness Training platform can help. At the same time, we also have a personalized learning partner, Qantas Learning. So Qantas Learning also uses brain-based learning, and it's very focused on how it actually structures your child's learning according to your child's requirements, and it's actually the world's most advanced personalized learning systems, right? So that's why we have a very comprehensive suite of brain tools so that we can help your child to learn math better. All right, so the brain-based learning of Singapore Math, actually we have 5 interconnected and interdependent components. So Dr. Zams Math essentially is made up of math conceptual mastery. We want your children to master math concepts, and there are different ways we use it. Like for example, the most common way is what is being called the CPA method. Okay, so CPA approach is basically the approach whereby you start by letting your child understand certain concepts using concrete objects, and then followed by pictorial, you know, represent it by pictures, and then abstract. So this is one of the methods we use. There are other methods that we use to help your child learn different math concepts. The other component is the math skills competency. Math skill competency here is skills in relation to math. For example, numbers. You know, how do your child compute numbers or manipulate algebra and things like that, like estimation, you know, and all the different kind of skills. Later we will touch more about this. Okay, the third component of Dr. Zams Math is the math processes. What are the math processes involved? And Dr. Zams Math actually help your child equip itself with the math processes. Right? Then the next important component is meta connection. So meta connection here is thinking about thinking. How do we help your child to think about its own thinking, to be more aware of its own activity, brain activity? Like, you know, for example, your child is thinking about the way it thinks, you know. So we actually have this math mental routine or habit that we want your child to be in, to put on this hat, this math hat, right? So that your child can do better in math. And lastly, and most importantly, of course, is motivation. You see, if your child is not motivated, you can never achieve anything, right? In fact, in life, if your child does not have motivation, your child cannot achieve anything. Alright, so for the math mental routine or habit, we actually use this method called the GWS Method with Dr. Zams' KISS checklist for problem solving. So this method and this checklist, you can actually have a free download if you actually sign up to Dr. Zams' math newsletter. So for those who have already signed up for the newsletter, you would have already gotten the GWS Method with Dr. Zams' KISS checklist for problem solving. Alright, now what is the math conceptual mastery that we're looking at? So the math concepts, basically it can be categorized into numerical, that means things to do with numbers, algebra, geometric, statistical, probabilistic, and analytical. So all these are the different categories of concepts in Singapore Math. Alright, and then the next thing is, what are math skills? So like I mentioned to you, it includes numerical calculation, algebraic manipulation, spatial visualization, data analysis, measurement, use of mathematical tools, and estimation. Right? And then for math processes, we are looking at 3 different components. We are looking at how your child reason, how your child communicate with math. That means your child's understanding of math, or rather we call it a math language, and how your child connects math within math itself or within other disciplines and also to their daily life, and the applications of all the things that your child has learned. And of course, the one that I think parents now would know would be heuristics and thinking skills. Alright, then what about the math mental routine or habit meta connection? So basically, meta connection is the awareness of an ability for a student to control its thinking processes, right? Especially in the selection and use of problem solving strategies. So that means your child must be able to know how its thinking process is like. Like for example, when your child faces a certain problem, what is the first thing your child do? What is the next thing your child do? And most important, of course, what problem solving strategies your child would use and in what situation. So what happens here is we have developed this very effective checklist, which we call Dr. Zams checklist, which stands for keep it systematic and score. So if your child creates a systematic way of thinking, which we call the math mental routine or habit, then your child will be able to score because your child has a proper system of understanding a certain question or a problem. Alright, and of course, like I mentioned to you, the most important is also motivation. So every student must be self-motivated, and when they learn, they must attain peak states. That means they must be in the best states to learn math. And math learning, of course, has to be fun, has to be meaningful, and it must be personalized to your child's own best learning strategies, because not one method works for every children. So we are able to actually take a look at your children's ability to learn and how we use the best learning strategies to help your children. Alright, so basically, brain-based learning, Singapore Math, is like a juggling act. It's as if your children has to juggle, right? Sometimes you wonder, how is it that my children's not doing well? Because to tell you the truth, Singapore Math requires your children not only to be good in math concepts, but to also progressively be good in all these areas. Okay, math concepts, your child has to be good in math concept, master math concept, and really know how to do all the mathematical processes, the skills and things like that. And at the same time, your child need to also have the math skills, you know, like manipulation of algebra, data analysis, numbers, computation, and things like that. Alright, and then also the math processes. So math processes here, like I mentioned to you, your child also need to understand the math language. Your child need to understand how to reason, how to think deductively and inductively. You know, to reason, to draw conclusions, the heuristics, the thinking skills. So this is actually a juggling act. You cannot just focus your children on the math concepts alone. As your child learns the math concept, your child must also increase its math skills competency and get itself more equipped with the math processes. So it's a juggling act, right, for every child that is taking Singapore Math. And at the same time, your child must have this way of understanding math, and that is the math mental routine or habit, which is the meta connection, and also the motivation, right, the motivation to do well. And all this needs to come nicely in a balance so that your child can do really well for math. So some of our best students are students who are able to juggle all these three components, and at the same time they are motivated and they use a particular system to help them do well. So this is basically the brain-based learning for Singapore Math. Alright, now let's take a look at the strategies we can use to help your children do really well. Alright, so the time now is about 10:25. So I'm going to take a little bit more time on this slide. And if you have questions, you can ask me later on. And I will take your question and answers, let's say about 20 to 30 minutes. Alright, probably around 9:45 to 10 o'clock. 10:45 to 11 o'clock. I'll take your questions if there are any. Alright, now let's take a look. So down here, we actually have the spectrum of grades or results, right? So first you have to take a look at your child's current math grade. You know, is your child in the failing region? If it's in the failing region, these are all the different grades, right? So the one below here is for foundation math, and the one here is for standard math. So standard math, the grades are actually in letters, right? You have A star all the way to U. And for foundation math, it's normally in numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and U, right? So now, if your child is failing math, right? If your child is scoring below 20%, what are the strategies to help your child do better? If your child is in the 20% to 30% range, what are the strategies? If your child is 35% to 49%, what are the strategies, because the strategies are very different, right? So you have to use the correct strategies to help your children depending on their current math grades and results. Now, let's say your child has now passed, right? Even passing grade, there are different kind of grades. So if your child is scoring 50% to 59%, which is a C for standard math and grade 3 for foundation math, there are different strategies that you have to take note of, because if not, your child will be switching from pass to fail, right? Because it's a borderline situation. And then after that, your child will be hitting the 60% mark, and then the 75% mark, which is an A already, right? And then your child will score 81% to 90%, and then above 90%. So as you can see, different children, depending on their current math grades, there are different progress strategies that you should be using, right? So now let's take a look at those who are failing, right? For those who are failing, what is very important here is your child needs to have strong math fundamentals. Strong math fundamentals here are things which are very basic. Like for example, those students who are scoring less than 20%, they do not even know how to add numbers, or they do not even know the order of operations, or they do not even know simple things like the notation of a number, the place value of numbers, or even simple things like spelling numbers out in words, right? So these are math fundamental things like, for example, fraction. They do not even know the different kind of fractions. They do not even know how to add or minus fractions or multiply. So these are math fundamentals which your children might not even know. That is why they are in the lower 20% range, right? And then the other thing is the math concepts. Your children have not mastered math concepts well. You see, in the PSLE exams, there is a syllabus. There's a certain syllabus whereby your children need to be able to master all the concepts. So for those who have joined our newsletter, you would have already received 2 downloads as a welcome gift. There's actually the PSLE mastery checklist, so you can exactly know everything your child needs to know. So it's very important for your child to know everything. Alright, so once your child knows everything, you already cleared the math concept. But like I mentioned to you, and we're going to talk a little bit more now, is problem solving. So there is this very crucial component. If your child does not know how to solve problems or do the word problem, your child will not do well, and your child will fail. That is for sure. Alright, and of course you have the careless mistakes. You know, no matter how bad your child scores in math or how great your child scores in math, they will still make careless mistakes. And then we have this concept of precision and speed. How precise your child can be with the answers, math answers, and at the same time is how fast your child can process the answers and come out with the answers or solutions, right? So precision and speed is very important. Now let's talk about students who have already passed, right? So students who have already passed, they must then no longer have issue with the math fundamentals. They are the students who are no longer having issue with math fundamentals, but they have issues with advanced math concepts. Like for example, ratio. The concept of ratio is not tested in foundation math, but it's tested in standard math. So your child's understanding of ratio must be there. And sometimes, you know, things like, for example, geometry or trigonometry. Okay, these are some of the advanced math concepts. Or something to do with spatial visualization, like for example the volume of area of certain cubes or cuboids, or certain areas of shapes, or things to do with other advanced math concepts, you know, like for example increase of percentages or decrease of percentages or speed. So these are some of the advanced math concepts your children have not mastered, and that is the reason why they might still be stagnant or not doing well in math. So in order for them to improve, you then need to focus on the advanced math concepts for these students who are in this range. And again, these are the common issues. If your child is still in this range, you still need to make sure your child is very good in problem solving. Alright, so that is another persistent problem. In order for your child to improve, your child still needs to be doing well in problem solving. Your child still makes careless mistakes, so later we'll tell you how we actually help your child to improve, in the sense that your child will not be making careless mistakes. And again, precision and speed still matters if your child is in this range of results. Alright, okay, now the next range, which is the 80%, which is considered the high achieving students. Okay, even for the foundation, you still have the problem with advanced problem solving. So advanced problem solving here means There are certain questions which require your children to think more creatively, to employ or use advanced problem solving strategies. So this is the part where, let's say your children is currently scoring 85%. How does your children, how do your children get even better scores? So for your children to get better scores, your children will have to know advanced problem solving strategies, right? So what we need to do here is, for example, the careless mistakes, the same thing, right? If your children are in the higher spectrum, careless mistakes is something very common. So we have an instances. Okay, let me just okay, so somebody actually posted a question. Alright, okay, let me just get back to this. So careless mistakes, precision and speed are the same thing, right? You need to make sure your children still do not make careless mistakes, precision and speed. So we have encountered students, because they are the high achievers. What happened here is they try to do their work very fast so that they can spend more time, and their workings are shorter because they know the answers, such that they make careless mistakes. And these careless mistakes are the most ridiculous, simple mistakes, right? Because to them, they are more focused on the more difficult questions, such that the very simple things, like for example, even simple addition or mental sums, they would get it wrong. So for students who are in this area, we still, in this spectrum of results, we still feel that they need to improve in their careless mistakes, precision and speed. Alright, now the other very big component of Dr. Zams Math is we are very focused also on motivation and brain fitness training. So like for example, we have found out that students who are failing math in the lower 20% to 20%, 34%, it's not that they are not good in math, but it's because their brain fitness is quite low. So when your child's brain fitness is low, it is very hard for them to do well in math, because Singapore math is very closely associated with brain fitness. Right? So in order for your child to do well in math, it's not only a matter of juggling with the mastery of math concepts or the juggling of math fundamentals or problem solving, but at the same time, your child needs to have the brain fitness level necessary. And at the same time, if your child is not motivated, your child's not going to improve either. So all these are the different strategies that we use in Dr. Zams Math. Alright, so to help, if you notice, no matter what is the grade or score of your children in math, Singapore math, primary math, your child still needs to solve problems. And that is the reason why we have developed the Dr. Zams Math Problem Sums Toolbox. So basically, it's a toolbox whereby we help your children to equip your children with heuristics and thinking skills. So we actually have 4 categories of heuristics, right, that we have developed. So the first category is, category here is to make a representation. So I'm sure in this category you have heard of drawing a model, drawing a diagram, right? Drawing a table. So all this is to help your child make a representation of the problem. So when your child has a problem, in order for your child to solve it, your child has to make a representation of the problem so that your child understands the question better or the problem better, and your child can come up with a solution, right? So all these tools are actually called heuristics. Okay, for those parents or students who still have not heard of the word heuristics, it is a big surprise, because heuristics is very important in Singapore math. So heuristics basically means problem solving tools. What are the problem solving strategies? So basically these are what are meant by heuristics. And at the same time, you need to have the thinking skills, right, to help you be able to solve problems. These are 2 components are very important, right? So the other category of heuristics is to make a calculated guess, right? So to make a calculated guess is one of the categories of strategies. So in this case, you have things which I'm sure you heard before: trial and error, right? Trial and error, make a supposition. So all these are the different problem sum strategies, right? So you will find all these in the math problem sum toolbox. And the next category of problem solving strategy is to go through the process, like for example, before after concept, to act it out and things like that. Alright, and the 4th category of heuristic is to change the problem. So in this case, we want your child to look at the problem in a different way. Can your child simplify the problem? Can your child solve part of the problem first? So these are the 4 main categories of heuristics that we employ in Dr. Zams Math Problem Sums Toolbox. And at the same time, we keep on increasing the tools to help your child solve non-routine questions, like for example the remainder concept, the equal concept, the internal transfer concept, the external transfer concept, and all the different non-routine methods. So as your child equips itself with all the different tools in the math problem sums toolbox, your child will be able to have a huge selection of all the different tools your child could use. Alright, so now I also want to let you know, on top of all the different things that we have, we feel that it's very important for us to offer you a series which we call Dr. Zams Ultimate Primary Math Series books. So there are actually 4 books in this series. So we cover conceptual mastery for math. Alright, so this is actually suitable for upper primary, from primary 4 onwards, okay, or primary 5 onwards. So conceptual mastery for PSLE means your child can start learning PSLE concepts as young as 4 years old, primary 4. Alright, so this is suitable for standard and foundation. And then the next thing here is, which is the most important, is volume 2, problem solving. We will take a look at all the heuristic and thinking skills. Alright, so this too is very important. And then at the same time here, of course, your child needs to have mastery practice, right? After your child has a knowledge, after your child know what your child needs to know, the next thing is for your child to actually practice. So we have 2 different books for volume 3, which is mastery practice book A and mastery practice book B. So mastery practice book A is for standard math, and mastery practice book B is for foundation math. So all these books, the mastery practice books, they come with worked out solutions, and we also have the digital or supplementary materials which your child could use online. So like for example, I'll be sharing with your children some webinars or some videos online so that your children can reinforce its understanding of certain topics, so that your child is not left alone. Alright, and all these books are also used in line with our workshops and our programs as well. Alright, now let's take a look at the new PSLE exam formats from 2018. Now here's the thing, in 2013, Ministry of Education Singapore, they revamped the whole curriculum, the math curriculum, right? When they revamped the whole curriculum, they did not really make key changes. They just shift around the content and things like that. But essentially, the math curriculum has not changed since 1990s, in the sense that the central focus of the curriculum, like I mentioned from the beginning of the slide, is actually problem solving. So since 2013, they start rolling out the change for primary 1 students. So those primary 1 students who are in 2013, like for example, if your children are taking PSLE in 2018, they were the first batch of primary 1 students who actually went through the new syllabus in 2013. So 2018 is for the very first time they are getting a new PSLE math exam format. So I'm now going to share with you what are the PSLE math new exam formats. Alright, now let's take a look at the standard PSLE math. Alright, so the standard PSLE math, alright, if you notice, it's still about the same. Okay, you still have paper 1 and paper 2. Do take note, you are not allowed to use calculator for paper 1. Alright, so for paper 1 is still the same. You have 2 booklets, booklet A and booklet B. Alright, so what is the difference? Okay, the difference here is, firstly, the duration now has been increased to 1 hour from 50 minutes. And the marks given for paper 1 is now more. It's higher, 45, right? So it's now 45 marks. Alright, for paper 2, everything else is about the same, except that now the marks has been reduced to 55. Right, and the amount given has also been reduced, but the overall marks is still the same, 100 marks. Alright, and then the other thing for you to take note is the total number of questions is fixed now, which is 47 questions. Alright, so multiple choice questions are what is known as closed questions, meaning your child has a given options and your child has to pick one. Right, so for multiple choice, there are 2 kinds. One is the 1 mark ones and the one with 2 marks, right? So the one with 2 marks require your child to apply certain math concepts and carry out certain solving of problems. And then you have the short answers one, okay? The short answers one, you have the 1 mark and the 2 marks. All right, now, for the short answer one with 1 mark, what is required from your children is the correct answer. As long as your children give the correct answer, your child will get a 1 mark. For the 2 mark question, there are 2 kinds. there is a question whereby there are two parts, and there's a question where there's only one part but it's 2 marks. For the questions which are one part and 2 marks, when you get the correct answer, they will give you the full marks. But if you get the wrong answer and you get the correct working, they will still give you 1 mark for the working, right? So this is something for you to think about. But for the short answer questions, if it's 2 parts, right, for 2 marks, that means each part is 1 mark. They are only looking out for the correct answer. In fact, the units are also given to your children. Alright, now for paper 2, you have a continuation of short answers, which are typically problem sums. Again, it's 2 marks. And then you have the structured long answer. So these questions are the questions whereby the weaker students or the average students will be struggling with. And mostly because this question tests on your child's ability to solve problems using math. Right? So it's about 3 marks, 4 marks, or 5 marks. So in total, there are about 12 questions, and total it will be 45 marks. So this whole entire examination will take about 2 hours, 30 minutes, and they will take these 2 papers on the same day with a break in between 2 papers. Alright, so paper 2, they can make use of calculator, so make sure your child brings calculator, because calculator helps your child to do basic calculation very quickly, so that your child can spend more time formulating the problem solving strategies. Alright, so this is standard PSLE math. Now let's compare this with standard let's compare this with foundation PSLE math, right? So this is foundation, this is standard. So let's take a look at a very obvious difference. Alright, the obvious difference here is for foundation PSLE math is only 90 marks, and there are only 46 questions, and the duration is shorter, 2 hours. Alright, but if you take a look at the ratio, or rather the duration given for each mark, foundation math actually has more time. That means your child have more time to spend on the questions, right? Okay, so the paper 1 is 1 hour, the paper 2 is 1 hour. So the change with foundation math is that now it is a smaller paper. It's now just 90 marks. Alright, so the multiple choice, you have 30 marks. The short answer, you have 20 marks. So for paper 1, it is 50 marks. Alright, and then paper 2 is 40 marks. So they actually cut down on paper 2 so that your children, so that foundation PSLE math is not so demanding to students who are in foundation PSLE math. Right? So this is a comparison between standard PSLE math and foundation PSLE math. So if your children are not doing well in standard PSLE math, they are not coping, you might want to consider foundation PSLE math. But do take note, if your children take foundation PSLE math, there are certain implications when your children go to secondary school, which I will be going to touch later on. Alright, so now let's move on to Dr. Zams Math e-classes and webinars. Right, so the e-classes and webinars that we have, okay, you see, the thing is, I've always been asking myself, how do I replicate myself so that I can help many students? So to tell you the truth, when I was doing my first doctorate in IT education, I came up with this system called MLAT. So basically, MLAT was featured in the Public Service Magazine Challenge. I won the top awards at international and local. I was known as the world's most innovative educators because of the applications of my doctoral thesis, my applications of what I did, which was to make use of technology in education, you know, like in the use of videos and things like that. And during that time, Facebook didn't even exist, right? So right now, we actually have a technology which allows us to use e-classes or webinars to help children, right? So that's why we are introducing e-classes and webinars, because we find that students, sometimes they are so busy with so many things. Why not offer them the e-classes and webinars? Because our e-classes and webinars, you can actually attend them on any mobile device, right? You don't have to have any special devices, you just need internet, and every student now basically have a mobile device with internet, so it's not a problem, right? So these e-classes or webinars, we have special webinars, like for example, this webinar is a special webinar whereby I just want to let you understand more about Singapore math, in particular primary math and secondary math, so that you know what to do for your children, you know how to get help for your children. And then we have the recorded webinars, like for example, this webinar will be recorded and then you can always view them again. And then we have other recorded webinars to help your children in different areas. And we also have e-classes. So e-classes are basically webinars whereby it will be me and my team who will take the questions from you, You know, like for example, your children are going through certain question, and then certain parts of the video or certain parts of the webinar, and your student and the students or your children have questions pertaining to what I'm covering, right? Alright, now, so these are the things that we are covering in the webinars and e-classes. So like, for example, just now I mentioned to you, these are the 3 different components that your children have to juggle with, right? So the math conceptual mastery, these are the different webinars that I'm going to offer to you. So all the webinars, all the paid webinars are going to be very affordable. It's only going to be 99 cents per webinar, and you don't have to buy all, you don't have to pay for all, you just choose what you want. And we have a special partnership with Qantas Learning. So all those students who are enrolled in Qantas Learning and they are enrolled for math subject, primary math, or secondary math, they will have free access to all these, right? So what we want to do here is we want to let Singapore math be accessible to everyone by using technology. So for math conceptual mastery, these are the topics that we have. And at the same time, the other thing is we're going to offer the Dr. Zams Math Problem Sum Toolbox in the form of webinars and e-classes and special webinars, so that your children can actually learn at their own pace, right? They don't have to feel very pressurized. They can learn at their own pace. They can pause the video. They can rewind the video. They can learn more and things like that. And on top of all the e-classes and webinars, we're going to give your children some worksheets. We're going to give your children some materials whereby your children can use it as well. So those are the scaffolding materials that your children can use. So together with the books that we are publishing, together with the webinars and classes, when you combine all of this, it will be a very powerful collection of resources for your children. Alright, so do take note that we have an upcoming special webinar, right? So for those who want to be notified of all the webinars that we have, like right now we're actually streaming live on Facebook, so if you want to be notified, please do sign up for Dr. Zams Math newsletter. Just go to the website drzams.com and then just register for Dr. Zams Math newsletter, and we will keep you updated. We will give you resources and all those things that you need to help your children. At the same time, make sure you follow or like Dr. Zams Math Facebook page. You can also go to our Instagram, my Instagram, which is Dr. Zam is here, and then my Twitter account will be Dr. Zam Tweets, and we also have a blog, right? So keep yourself updated with all the things that we have. So the next special webinar that we are having will be next week, next week around this time, but it will be at 8 p.m. evening. Alright, 14 July Saturday. So it is for all primary 6 students. So basically, the special webinar is entitled Countdown to PSLE Revision. So what we want to do here is we want to get your children started on preparation for primary 6 math prelims in August 2018. Alright, so what we will do here is I will cover the key must know concepts. You know, your children must know these concepts and the common problem sum strategies, so that when your children know these concepts and the common problem sum strategies, your children can effectively improve their results by 10 to 20 marks quite easily. So all this will be covered in a similar 90-minute webinar and question and answer session, so that we can help your children to jumpstart its PSLE revision, right? So just take note, PSLE is in October 2018. So you're left with like less than 90 days, right? So this is a very good special webinar. Again, this is a free webinar you can attend together with your children. Alright, so some of our school holidays programs that we have from 31st August all the way to 1st to 9th September 2018, we are very focused on PSLE math preparation and also secondary school algebra mastery workshops. Alright, so these are our previous sessions or previous runs of our workshops for PSLE math preparation and algebra mastery workshops. So some of our participants have learned really well. You know, they have learned many strategies and methods to do well. We have students who from B scored an A star. We have students who have failed scoring a B. So they are very motivated. They learn new strategies. So these are some of our past participants who have found the workshop to be very, very beneficial to them. Alright, and some of them have gone on to even surprise their parents. Alright, now I just want to touch a little bit on the transition your children will make from Singapore primary math to Singapore secondary math, and why is it important for you to understand the implications when you take a certain subject for your children, like for example, if you decide for your children to take foundation math, what are the implications? If you decide for your children to take standard math, what are the implications in secondary math? So I just want to let you know a little bit more about Singapore secondary math so that you can have the context, okay, the context of math education in Singapore. Alright, so basically, Ministry of Education of Singapore, the Curriculum Planning and Development Division, states that mathematics is largely a hierarchical in nature. Hierarchical here means from top-down approach or bottom-up approach, right? So basically here, what they are trying to say here is the higher concepts and skills are built upon the more foundational ones to be learned in sequence. Alright, so there's a spiral approach which is being adopted in the building of content across the levels. So like for example here, we start off with P1 to P4 mathematics, right? So when your children go to P5 or P6, your children can opt for standard math or foundation math. But there are implications when your children are in secondary. Like for example, if your children are taking standard math, okay, they can directly take normal acad E-math or express or O-level E-math without much problem because they don't have to bridge, right? But if your child is taking foundation math and then your child goes to normal acad, then your child needs to bridge itself because there are certain concepts which your child have not learned, which includes, for example, algebra. But if your child is in the foundation math and your child goes to normal tech, then it's still okay, right? Your child is still fine. So if let's say your children wants to do additional math, right? So for normal acad to additional math, there is actually a gap, right? So your child need to bridge itself. But if your child has already taken E-math at O level, your child can easily take A-math depending on your child's ability, right? So if you are intending for your children to go pre-university, you must take note. A-math is actually an advantage for your children to take if your child is going to pre-university JC, right? Because A-math is actually the foundation for H2 math, alright? But if your child is taking H1 math, which is a lower demanding kind of math, then E-math is sufficient, right? So you must take note that there's this H3 math. H3 math is for students who are thinking of applying for scholarship. Like for example, my case, during my time, we don't call it H3 math, we call it special paper, right? So I actually took special papers. So because of the special papers that I took, I was able to be offered with scholarships because H3 mathematics actually they take a look at your ability in mathematics. So it's an indication that you're really good in mathematics if you take H3 mathematics. So the kind, it allows your child to be an expert or rather go in depth into math, right? So this is just a simple representation of the whole math education in Singapore and what are the implications right from the beginning. So you must take note, if you do not straighten out your children's understanding of math right in the primary school level, especially in the foundation of P1 and P4, then your child will suffer or will not be able to do better at P5 or P6. And then if you don't sort it out here, then your children will start having lots of problems in secondary school, right? So that is the reason why when we launched Dr. Zams Math, we want to make sure, right? We want to make sure this component here is very strong. We want to make sure we help your children to have a very strong foundation in math, alright? Okay, so now I just want to refresh your memory or rather remind you that Curriculum Planning and Development Division of MOE Singapore, they mentioned that the central focus of the framework is mathematical problem solving, that is using mathematics to solve problems. And the framework is the same for Singapore primary math and Singapore secondary math, right? The focus is still problem solving. So you need to move away from your thinking that in order for your kids to do well in math, your kids need to know math, right? That's not good enough. In Singapore math, that's not good enough. Your child has to move away from just being able to master math concepts to being able to solve problems using math, right? So this change in curriculum since 2013 has also affected Singapore secondary math, all right? So just take note of that. Now, I just want to introduce to you Qantas Learning. So just now, as I mentioned to you, Dr. Dr. Zams Math is very focused on e-classes, webinars, and school holiday programs. But we do understand that your children might require weekly coaching, right? So you can actually work with Qantas Learning. So Qantas Learning is our partner, whereby they are actually the world's most advanced personalized learning systems. So what happens here is they believe that every child should be put at the center of the learning universe. So every single session is personalized to your child's learning, who your child is. So for those who are looking for weekly coaching sessions, you can go to Qantas Learning. All right, you can go to this website, bemigrators.com, and you can sign up for the trial. For your information, Qantas Learning is an international quality award winner. All right, the Arch of Europe in Frankfurt. So they actually won an award for quality and innovation in technology. So it's a worthwhile thing for you to take a look. So actually, Qantas Learning is very interesting because they personalize even the group size. Like for example, you can choose the standard group size of 8 students in a group, or 4 students in a group, or 2 students, or even 1-to-1. And they also have home-based, right? So they actually have all the requirements that you need weekly coaching. So just feel free to contact Qantas Learning. You can go to qantaslearning.com, and you can go to bemigrators.com. All right. So now, the next video that we have, that I'm gonna give it to you, but I'm not gonna announce it when, is a bonus video on Dr. Zams Math Problem Zams Toolbox, right? So make sure you go to drzam.com, sign up for the Dr. Zams Math newsletter, which is free, right? And then you get a welcome gift, which is very useful for you, which is the GWS Dr. Zams Kids Checklist. You're gonna get these 2 books for free. And then make sure you follow us on Dr. Zams Math Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and blog, right? So in order for your children to do well, you just need to keep yourself updated with all the latest that we can offer you. All right, so now what we are gonna do here is, right now it's about 11 o'clock. So I'm not too sure how many of you all are already in the webinar, because I've not taken a look. So I have not even read any of your questions yet, because I was very focused on the webinar component. So let me just move to the room. All right. Okay. All right. So I think now we can actually take questions. Okay. All right. Let's take some questions. Okay, for those of you who has question, you can just let me know your questions. Okay, so I'll give you all some time to ask any questions. Alright, yeah, while waiting for you all to type your questions, let me just see. Alright, so most questions that parents ask me is, okay, is it too late for my children to do well in PSLE Math? Is it too late? Now it's already July, right? So your children have 90 days. So now, the thing is this, if you're talking about math, I've seen students who have scored U and then they proceed to score an A. But what happens here is your children will then focus entirely on math. But you must take note that PSLE Math is not the only subject your child needs to focus on. Your child has 3 other subjects. So right now the strategy here is you need to help your child to go to the best secondary school. To go to the best secondary school, your children need to have a high aggregate. Okay, your children need to have high aggregate. To have high aggregate means your children need to do well in all subjects. For example, minimum a B, or for those who want to go to top schools, all A's or 2 A stars or 1 A star at least, right? So it depends, because you must have the overall strategy to make sure your children go to a good school, a good secondary school, right? So these are the kind of questions I always get from parents. So I have some parents who will tell me, my child is really not doing well in math. My child is only getting a single digit for math. Okay, yeah, you will be surprised. There are some students who are so weak in math that they just get a single digit for math, right? So how do you help students who have single digit math? Let me tell you this. If your child is scoring single digit for math, or the lower end, like for example 20% or 25%, let me tell you this, it is not a math problem. Your child does not have a problem in math. Your child needs help in its brain fitness. That is what I have seen. I have seen students who are not doing well in math, right? And then they are doing really terribly in math. What I've been able to find out is that their cognitive functions is very low. That means your child needs the help to increase its brain's fitness, right? So if your child is scoring 20%, I would suggest you to let your child take foundation math. You know, because if your child scores 20%, your child will even lose motivation and interest in math. So it's better that your child goes to foundation math, and at least your child can pass math, right? Because you must take note, just now as I've shown to you, math education in Singapore is integral in the whole education system. There is, MOE believes math is a very important subject for all Singaporeans, or for those who are taking Singapore math. So you need to make sure your children love math, right? If you know your children is not doing well in math, at least put them in foundation math, right? If let's say your children is scoring below 20 or 80 or 90, right? So this is something for you to think about. And the other common question parents will ask is, my child doesn't understand what my child reads, right? I can understand that, because when you're doing problem sums, there's this thing called the mathematics language, or the math language. Can your child understand the notation, the symbols, you know, the conventions? You know, like for example, if you actually downloaded the free gifts from the newsletter, I actually have the ebook for you. There's actually a particular problem question, okay, problem sum, which your child needs to understand, right? So these are some of the things that you need to think about. So in this webinar, I'm not interested to, you know, just show you one problem sum strategy, because one problem sum strategy, your child can memorize it, but it doesn't mean that your child will be able to solve any problem sum. My goal is to help your child have a math brain, or have a math mental routine, such that any problem sum that is given to your children, your child can solve it. That is the most important thing. Okay, the most important thing is for your children to be able to solve any math problem, not just to just teach you one problem sum. So that's why in this webinar, I do not want to focus on any particular problem sum strategies, but I just want to let you have an idea of how your child can score and improve tremendously in Singapore primary math. Alright, since we have a little bit of time, about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to revisit a slide which I think is very important. Okay, so I'm just going to revisit this slide which I think is very important. Alright, let me just show you this slide. Okay, so this is the slide I want to focus on. Alright, so every parent, what is your biggest concern? Your biggest concern is, I want my child to do well in math, right? If you want your child to do well in math, you have to understand what is wrong in the first place, right? So I think it is very important for every parent to understand your child, right? Before you even can help your child, you have to understand your child. You have to look at the grades beyond. Oh, you will say, oh, my child is very lazy. Lazy, don't want to do homework, or not motivated. Then you must understand why. You know, like for example, I mentioned to you, if your children is in the range of 20%, like for example, okay, let's say your children is in this range. Okay, your children is in this range of failing U, E, or D. Let me just change the color. Right, let's say your children is in the failing grade. Okay, if your children is taking standard, is in this failing grade, then you must understand, because even there is a difference, you know. If your children score anything below 20%, it's the math fundamentals, right? Your children might need help in the brain fitness training area, because your child's cognitive functions is a little bit too low to be able to do Singapore math. Because Singapore math, like I mentioned to you, the central focus is problem solving, and problem solving is a cognitive function that your child needs to have, right? So that's why PSLE math is really related to the brain fitness of your child. The more fit your child's brain is, the better your child is able to do math, right? So we are not talking about just the math concepts, right? We're not just talking about problem solving. We are also talking about how your child's brain is able to solve problems using math. So there is a reason why Dr. Zams Math is very focused on brain-based learning, right? Brain-based learning is very important. Motivation is very important. So if you look at children who are not performing in this in this spectrum here, right, your child needs motivation and brain fitness training, right? So just like I mentioned to you, we do have a brain fitness training which is called Infinito Brain Fitness Training, right? So this is something for you all to take note. Okay, so basically we have a message here from Iman Ehsan. Hello, Iman Ehsan. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you for the likes and loves. So yeah, do ask any questions if you have any questions. So like just now I mentioned to you, for those who have, you know, your child or your student has the current grade of 20%, less than 20%, 20%, 34%, 35 to 90, 49%. It's not just a matter of your child is just lazy, never practice enough. There's so many reasons why. You see, for math, in order for your child to do well in math, it's not just about practice. Your child needs to know what he needs to know. So for those who actually sign up to the newsletter, you would have already downloaded the checklist, okay, the mastery checklist, the PSLE mastery checklist, all the different things your child needs to know. So with that checklist, you can actually go through with your children and then you know exactly. All right, and then here we have the spectrum here, okay, 50% all the way to 80%. In order for your children to improve further, you know, your children need to be able to know the advanced math concept, the problem solving, and then if your children wants to do even better, then your children need to be able to do advanced problem solving. So it is a very strategic manner, right? You have to help your children to start off from, let's say, is it possible? Okay, let me tell you this, right? Let's try to be practical and realistic. If your child is scoring below 20%, and then if you to ask me, Dr. Zam, can you help my child who is less than 20% to become A star in math? My answer to you is not possible. Okay, because if your child is scoring below 20%, and the reason is not because your child is absent, but the reason is because your child is really weak in math, and then if we were to do the diagnostics, we find that your child has a low brain fitness level, then of course it's very hard to get A star, because to tell you the truth, PSLE math is like an IQ assessment, right? That is how our education system segregates students, right? Because at a very early age, they are already segregating students. They are trying to create, or rather they're trying to find students who are really good, because Singapore is very limited in our people's resource, right? We are a very small nation, so they are trying to create the elites, okay, the elites, those people who can solve problems, because at the end of it, okay, at the end of everything is about solving problem, right? So actually PSLE math is very interesting. It is something that I personally am motivated, because math to me is very important, especially Singapore math is very interesting, because problem solving is very, very crucial. And to tell you, other subjects in the Singapore education system are also based on problem solving. Like for example, nowadays when you are learning science, when you learn science, they don't just expect you to know the concepts. They want you to apply the concepts. They want you to have the processing skills. They want you to have the thinking skills. All right, even for English and Malay, you know, it is no longer just about rote learning. It is about being able to solve problems, because at the end of the day, when your children leave the education system, it is all about problem solving, right? So how do we help your children to do well in all this? So like just now I mentioned to you, problem solving. So we have all these heuristics and thinking skills, right? And then we have these 4 books as well. So at the same time, we also have the webinars, right? So these are all the different things that you can think about. Okay, let me just see if there are any questions. Okay, so thank you to everybody who has participated in this, our first webinar. All right, so this is not going to be the only webinar. There are going to be more webinar and live streaming on Facebook. Okay, so just take note that these are the areas that your children needs to do really well in. All right, So these are the 5 areas. Okay, so I'll just wait for about 1 minute. If you have any more questions, just feel free to ask me. I will take any questions. So meanwhile, let me just take a look at some of the questions here. Okay, so currently there are 2 active windows. Okay, so the webinar room is active. So there are some attendees who are in the webinar room, and then there are some on Facebook. Okay, so let me just catch your questions. Are there any questions? Okay. Hi, Iman, Rosie. Okay. All right. So do take note. If you have any questions, you can always contact us. Okay. Most of the time, I'll be the one answering your questions. If not, my team will be answering your questions. Alright, so you can always go to our website, drzam.com, if you want to get in touch with us. Okay, so okay, so do note, you can go to drzam.com to read up more about it. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can go to Facebook page. You can go to our Instagram or Twitter and blog. Alright, so I wish everybody the best. So do take note, we have the next webinar, okay, which is coming soon, next week on 14th July. This time round, we will take a look at how your child can prepare for its PSLE. We will cover some of the concepts, okay, must know concepts and problem sum strategies. Alright, so thank you very much to those who are here. If you have any further questions, always contact me. Yes, and this video will be made available on all platforms, and for those who are interested, this will also be recorded webinar. You can always watch this video again. Alright, so thank you very much for your participation. I welcome you, and I hope your children and the students who are watching live, you all will do well in math. Alright, so have a good day. So I'll see you